It's everyone something. I didn't put all my eggs in one basket with the US. I went through immigration 15 years ago, held the green card to the US since 2014. I only like, well, I've lived most of my life in the city, so city environments suit me. The US has large apartments in the city and affordable. I'm not an idiot, so of course I couldn't afford, although I could have years ago. The financial district of America, Fiddy, was really cheap and affordable once. In my lifetime, I'm talking about like back in 2009 to 2013, when I was looking, I could have brought and should have brought a large apartment in the financial district. Didn't. Okay, so I still was always looking, going, okay, 24-hour city, because I can't live outside of a 24-hour city. I don't do suburbia and I don't do country towns. Simple. I won't live like that. I won't live where I'm. Sydney, Australia. Sydney feels like it's a country town, not a city. It doesn't behave like a city. It's got nothing that would mimic a city. It's just large suburbia. It's not a city. It's horrible to live in. So if I was to live in Australia, it's like, doesn't matter where, like which suburb you live in, really. Just got to find something that suits you because there's no cities, unfortunately, in Australia. That's what it feels like. Living somewhere where there's no cities. It's horrible. In America, so then I was finally looking at moving there. Well, the financial district was out of my price range by then. I'm thinking, shit, I should have brought when I could have. However, places like 37 South Iowa Avenue, Atlantic City wasn't, and that suited me fine. It was on the ocean in a 24-hour area with large, I could afford to buy outright, a huge, large Art Deco with massive, huge windows, apartment that was co-op, not homeowners association. So there's a big difference between co-op and homeowners association. Is just horrible. It's dreadful. It's dismal. It's a nightmare. You want co-op. Okay, so it was co-op, two large king-size bedrooms with two full-size bathrooms and a bathtub in each bathroom, galley kitchen, separate dining room, separate lounge room, huge bay windows that overlook the Tropicana Casino in a 24-hour environment, walking distance to the beach. That is what I wanted. And that's what I was going to buy because that suited me, my health conditions, and everything that I needed in life. And I had the money to be able to do so until the interference happened. Now, that's what was happening in the US. If I was never moving to the US, so say if the US was never going to happen and I was forced to be in Australia. So say that was never going to happen, which you guys fucked up America for me anyway. So in Australia, I was looking, going, okay, well, I'm not going to be in rental. Okay, so Sydney, I wouldn't buy in. It's not worth the money. So I was always looking outside of Sydney, as anyone knows me, because I actually purchased in 2007 52 Lantana Road in Umina Heights, not Umina Beach, yep, Umina Heights, but it overlooked Umina Beach. So it was upbuilt on the mountain and you could see the ocean from it. 5-bedroom house. Now I actually had to pull out of that because I was mugged after work and lost my job. Okay, so I was always looking outside where I could afford it, and back then I could afford that place. I had a huge 5-bedroom house in Umina, massive, where you saw the ocean. Years went by, I went for the recovery from being mugged and robbed November 30th, 2007 on my way home from work. And then I was looking, going, okay, well, because I would never want to be anything to do with these organisations that I'm currently involved in. Never. So I was like, okay. 2 options. So I can't afford the area where Dad lives now, like Empire Bay. So 2 options. I can afford up near Newcastle. So I was looking at Newcastle, large places. Near Foster, large places, large Art Deco house, massive. Okay. Newcastle, Foster. If it was to move to Mum's in Tamworth, it would only be East Tamworth. Was looking at apartments, large apartments in East Tamworth with the money I had. If I was going to stay closer to Sydney and thought, okay, if I don't want to go as far as Newcastle or anywhere past Newcastle, and the only option is I can't afford the peninsula anymore, which is where I could have afforded in 2007, I would ask my father, Mark Ian Fleming, who lives in Hillcrest Road, Empire Bay, who's got the main house there, but there's a flat off it, to ask him if I could spend the money, like say 200,000 on renovating the flat off the main house, extending it down into the swimming pool area to make it feel like two separate houses. So I would feel more like a neighbour, not living there. So it wouldn't encroach on his life and I'll still pay him rent. Because that still gives me a really good house, okay, at Empire Bay. Fair enough, I don't own it, but it's on my dad's property. Overlooking, where you can see St Herbert's Island, you've got Avoca around the corner, beautiful beaches, Kilcare. However, I would be in my own space, coming and going, no real estate agent, no landlord, no nothing. And it's my money going into it, okay, that I would get out anyway when Dad dies and I get my inheritance. So these were the options I was doing with my life. These were the options that my family was told. There was no other options outside of that. These were the options that I was lining myself up to do. Either it was to stay in Australia, that's what it was. Moving to America, that's what it was. There was no, he's changing his mind. No, you were told. And all because, my ex-partner Giovanni goes, well, what about you when you're discussing about New Zealand? I'm like, I would never live in fucking New Zealand. Are you insane? Because when we were on holiday, you were saying about what a good investment, you could buy a place to rent out for a lodge. I'm like, yeah, that's buying something for an investment. I would never fucking live in a shithole like fucking New Zealand. There's no cities. There's nothing. It's an island. It's a fucking island. It's horrible. What I said to you was there's a university. So when we were there, I said there's a university right there. And during university times, they're pushed to have somewhere for university students to live. It gets really full. There's cheap houses there. You could set those houses up like a dormitory. And then in the off season, when all the gays go over during August for skiing to go in Queenstown and traveling, you could then rent it out and you could have something sitting there as an investment. I never said anything about living there. Those other options were the options I was looking at in my life. I went through a green card process, okay, to be a permanent resident of America. I will never live in anything that's suburbia or has land. I can't stand it. Absolutely can't fucking stand it. Okay, would never live outside of a fucking city. In America, it was looking towards where I could afford. Years ago, I was looking for the financial district, but I didn't have my green card back then when I was looking. I wish I had just went ahead and purchased in the financial district without worrying about the whole immigration sort of green card first. I should have actually asked someone and said, okay, look, I want to purchase in the financial district. This was years ago, back before 2012. Years ago. So when I sold my place I sold 16 Scott Road, when I had all this money, I wanted to go and purchase in America then because I was going through a green card process. So I wanted to purchase then, except I thought, no, I'll wait because who knows? Maybe I won't get my permanent resident status, so I won't purchase yet. I thought, no, you know what? I should have just fucking purchased. Okay, I didn't. So therefore, when I finally got my permanent resident status, I couldn't afford in the financial district to buy. However, I could afford, and I was waiting for a property to come available that was suitable for me. 37 South Iowa Avenue, Atlantic City, and that is perfect. It ticks all the boxes. Large 2 bedrooms that were king-size bedrooms. Large 2 bathrooms that were full-size bathrooms with separate shower and separate bath. Separate dining room, separate lounge room, galley kitchen. In a 24-hour city, walking distance from the ocean, when you've got the Tropicana Casino directly in front of you, you are there in smack bang in the middle of a 24-hour city. That's the US. That's what I was doing in America. Now, if I wasn't going to move to America and stay in Australia, I was never going to stay in a rental property ever. I would never have anything to do with housing commission. So staying in Australia and living my life in Australia and looking at the situation I was put into, remember that back in 2007, I did purchase 52 Lantana Road in Yamina Heights, that massive, huge 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, 2 stories. That was in Yamina Heights there on the new Timbertop Drive, built into the mountain that overlooked Yamina Beach. I had to pull out of that because I was mugged and robbed November 30th, 2007 on my way home from work. So that's where I was going to be living. Okay, that's where I'll be living. Okay, it still had like a city sort of, outlook. It wasn't 24 hours. I still had that very, Sydney sort of cosmopolitan feel about it on the ocean. So then come to the whole recovery of health problems that happened after I was mugged after work. And I started looking again, going, okay, well, I don't have to be connected in with a team in the city anymore. So I can start looking, because I'm not going to stay in Sydney because there's no way I'm going to be renting, okay? And I won't be living in housing, okay? So I started looking. Now, I looked in Newcastle. I looked around Foster, and I did look in Tamworth, but I would not live anywhere in Tamworth outside of East Tamworth. So I've got a city because there's nothing else. Okay, and that's only because that's the only thing that suits me for a bit of a city feel. Other than that, it's pointless me. There's nothing there for me. There's not one thing there for me in New England at all. Outside of East Tamworth, that is it. So I looked heavily around the Central Coast, looked where my dad lives, so forth. Found the place in Fleet Street. Okay, that was perfect. The Art Deco house. Huge house, huge inside space. Was going to extend it to make it even more huge inside space because I want more inside space than outside space. Less outside space. I only need a courtyard. Don't like a lot of outside space. Massive inside space is what I like. Can't stand outside space. Absolutely hate it. Need more inside space. I like to be able to sleep in a large room where there's airflow. I don't want fucking outside space with lawns and grass. No thanks, no thanks. That's not me. I can't stand it. Okay? So if that wasn't going to go ahead, as I said, Dad's still at Hillcrest Road, Empire Bay, getting old. Dad's got a huge house, and off that huge house, there is a flat. No one's lived in that flat since 1996 when I did. I was going to use my money and say, okay, Dad, okay, I can't afford now, with what's happened after being mugged after work and the health injuries, to be living in this area. But I don't want to be in a shit area. Can I pay to renovate the flat off the main house so it feels like it's so it feels like I'm your neighbour and I won't encroach on your life. So I won't be using your backyard or like the only thing I was going to ask Dad to do was if I could extend the flat into the swimming pool area and put a block. Like Dad would still be able to use the swimming pool, but the swimming pool area, it's a sunken backyard down some stairs, and then you go where the in-ground swimming pool is. Put a fence there so I don't encroach on his space then. So I just use that back part, where the swimming pool area is, but so can him. I wanted to make it feel that it was comfortable for him where I'm not encroaching on his property and his life, and it would feel like two separate properties where I would be just his neighbour. Okay, that's what I wanted. Because the flat's already there on a separate water, separate electricity, and then I'll be paying him rent. So extend it into a nice house, extend it into the swimming pool area, not get rid of the swimming pool. Like I said, Dad keeps saying, oh, if you get rid of the swimming pool, but I'm like, that's too expensive, Dad. All you got to do is extend it into the swimming pool area. Getting rid of the swimming pool, do you know how much money that is? If you remove the in-ground pool, you've got to get surveyors out and everything. You've got to get people to make sure the land's sturdy. It's got to be filled in a certain way. It's too expensive. That's an expense I don't need to have. Okay? You can extend that flat into the swimming pool area and keep the in-ground swimming pool there. Okay? And that would be perfect. And that's what I was going to ask Dad. I thought, okay, if I need to be close to Sydney, Dad's at Empire Bay, and these were my options as me getting older and living my life. That's what I was going to do. Not what my mother forced me into, not what my aunties on my mum's side forced me into. This is what I had planned to do. It's my life, and that's it. These were the options I set out for my life to go and achieve. Now, because I was moving to America, that's what I set out to do, to buy 37 South Iowa Avenue, and I was stopped to be able to do it. Stopped. Now, you did. You played your scams, your mental health scams in America, your trauma scams. And what was it? You tried to make it out to be some Greyhound therapy scam, and you cost me over $200,000. And you did. Okay? These were the facts. And that's it. The interference in my life cost me. Now, every bit of damage from 2015 to date gets reimbursed, and that's it. The organisations that got involved, you were told to fuck off by me. Groups, organisations, social workers, trauma workers, mental health workers, disability work, all these fuckwits that have been getting involved for the last 11 years is causing that much damage and costing me money. Pay me the fucking money, the damages, the loss of salary, the reckless endangerment to my health, the pain and suffering, the over $200,000 in savings. You caused it. Don't fucking put it back onto me when you guys did your little scams and caused it to my life. I have a 20-foot container of assets and belongings that I've already had. You can see it in DVDs and photographs back when I was even living in Surrey Hills. You've cost me my studies, my living home environment, my return to work, my employment, my career, everything for your toxic, narcissistic, control freak bullshit. Your mental health crap. Pay me my fucking money and get the fuck out of my life permanently.